I will call this joint entities meeting for Monday, January 12th, 2026 to order. And per usual, we'll just go around the room and introduce ourselves. And we've got some new faces in our respective entities. So Paul, would you mind doing us the honors? Let us know who you are and who you're with.
My name is Paul Park, and I'm on the City Council here in North Liberty.
I'm Lisa Green Douglas. I am on the Johnson County Board of Supervisors.
Tanya Fortney, North Liberty.
Rod Sullivan, Board of Supervisors.
Jane Finch, I was East Board.
John Green, Supervisor. Tim Kemp, Mayor Hills.
Louise Fromm, Mayor University Heights.
Doug Swales, University Heights City Council.
Charlie Easton, Iowa City School Board.
Felix Marais, Johnson County Supervisor.
I'm Aaron Torchinsky, the VP of Programs at Horizons.
Sandy Waker, Horizons, yes.
Rich Vogelsang, Coralville City Council.
Mayor Davidson, Superintendent of Schools at Clear Creek, Manor.
So Shaylin here, City of Idaho.
Katie Freeman, Coralville City Council.
Nick Pfeiffer, School Board at Clear Creek, Manor, and also Iowa City in the Commission Business.
Laura Burgess, Iowa City Council. Andy Remington, Johnson County Board of Supervisors.
Lori Goodrich, Mayor Coralville.
And Chris Hoffman, Mayor here in North Liberty. I should have started with myself, but I give Paul those honors. So, is more electeds walked in since we started this? I don't think so. There she is. Jennifer, would you mind introducing yourself real quick?
I'm Fraser here, City Board.
Thank you. Can everyone hear okay? We got a nice fan above us. You guys hear okay back there? Okay. If you wouldn't mind remembering that, it's in a spot like that. I'm going to start off with any public comment. Tracy, I'll look to you. Have we received anything online in regards to public comment?
We have not.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience from the public wishing to address this committee? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment. And I will move right to item 4, which is the field mediation pilot intro by Johnson County Supervisor Mandy Remington and Iowa City Councilor Laura Burgess. If you guys want to go through the presentation, you're welcome to do so there, or I've got the keyboard and you can run it from here.
Yeah, we've heard it from you.
Okay.
Sounds running your way.
See if, yes, I got that.
Thank you.
Let's see if that works. There you go. I can see the mouse on the screen.
So, we're doing some information sharing that comes with a bit of an invitation to everyone. Information sharing with a bit of an invitation to everyone at the table here. Johnson County and the City of Iowa City were recently awarded a 15-month grant-funded technical assistance to launch a field mediation program. And so this program will help get communities, existing mobile crisis responders, cross-trained to be able to respond to nonviolent conflicts as well as the mental health crises that they currently respond to. And designed to strengthen prevention and diversion efforts while expanding innovative approaches to public safety. There were 2 communities in the country that were awarded this grant, so it's us and one. So field mediation is community-based. It is unarmed responders who are trained in conflict mediation, providing an alternative to 911 for nonviolent conflict-related situations. It can divert appropriate 911 calls from law enforcement to trained mediators when safe and appropriate. Our pilot is likely going to start with just the number that community currently has, and we will explore 911 diversion at a later time. Technical assistance is provided by Dignity Best Practices, and it's funded by the AAA SCDR Foundation. We're going to get about 15 months of support, around 800 hours, and that pilot development process is starting. They're doing a site visit in January. They're going to ride along with community as well as with the Iowa City Police Department's crisis response, and then we'll cover the So this program is responding to strong community interest in prevention and diversion strategies. It positions Johnson County, Iowa City, and any other municipalities that decide to join us as early adopters of innovative public safety models. And it builds on existing alternatives such as mobile crisis response, Restorative Justice, and the Johnson County Ambulance Services Mobile Integrated. Again, the grant provides 15 months, 800 hours of technical assistance starting this month. They have a toolkit that we have access to. They will be coming to our community 4 times during that 15 months. The first time will be at the end of this month. And they will assist with stakeholder engagement, budgeting, and operational design. So next steps, we are having a community conversation that is a public-facing and informational event at the Iowa City Public Library on January 27th from 6 o'clock to 7:30 p.m. Dignity Best Practices will be present for that event. It's just to kind of let the community know what we're doing. And then the cross-agency committee will develop the pilot with Dignity Best Practices to make sure that it is appropriate for our community. It's not using an existing template, which is why there's not a whole lot of information to share right now other than this invitation to be a part of designing what it will look like for. We are going to have bi-weekly meetings of this cross-agency committee starting February 12th from 12 to 1 o'clock on Thursdays. Those will be hybrid meetings, so they'll be on Microsoft Teams as well as in room 110, the admin building at the Johnson County Administration Building at 913 South 20th Street. If there are any other municipalities that want to be involved in designing this pilot or just be informed as we go along, please let us know. We want to have as much stakeholder involvement as we can. Questions at this time?
Questions? Andy and Bar, it's a very interesting proposal. Really, is it possible for non-governmental entities to be involved in this development process? Community groups that have some interest in participating? Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have already invited United Action for Youth, and I sent an invitation to Regina today for the school board as well. Mediation Services of Eastern Iowa is involved. Obviously, community is involved as they're going to be the ones that are doing fostering. So yeah, if you have an agency that's interested in being involved, you just want to email me contact information. I can bring that to the group, and as long as there isn't any concern for any reason, let
No,
them
this isn't an agency, it's a community.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is that additionally in terms of technical assistance? Is that sort of like subject matter expertise and they do, or the technical as in will help set up infrastructure, or is it yes and? Or that is to be seen and co-created?
That is a little bit of both. So yes, they have stood these programs up. They're connected to the one in Dayton, Ohio, so they have experience like from the ground up in the entire process. They say support with the design, implementation, and launch of a pilot program, including cross-agency working group facilitation, community engagement support, ad call analysis, call type selection, dispatch pathways, field protocol, training design, and performance metric selection.
Is there a community that has done this before?
Dayton, Ohio is the best example.
Who was the other community selected? Please tell me it was New York.
You know what? I'm actually not sure. I don't know.
Or Denver or something cool.
They haven't told us that. But yeah.
Cedar Rapids would be cool too.
That's all we have. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Thanks, Laura. Let's move on to item 5, which is the Trip Connect update by Johnson County Mobility Coordinator Kelly Schneider.
Where can I do this?
That would probably give you the loudest.
Sorry.
Hi, I'm Kylie Schneider. We're ready? Okay. see if I can control this. Perfect. Awesome. Hi, I'm Kelly. I'm the mobility coordinator. I have people all around, so I'm just going to turn around and say hi. I have been in position as mobility coordinator since 2017. So I originally got started at the county doing travel trainings on the fixed route systems, and then kind of involved into helping transit expand. It's been a while since I've been in front of this group, so I think we were just launching, looking for an operator for our service when I was here 2 years ago. So now we have a year under our belts. All right, so Trip Connect. Trip Connect is a wraparound transportation service that was designed to meet needs when our transit systems are not operating. So this... Will I do what?
Can you see it on the screen?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I do.
I didn't turn around.
There we go. Okay, so the primary purpose is to get people to employment, education, and childcare when the buses are not running. We have an operator of NTS Horizons who's in the room here with us today. NTS operates on-demand service in the city of Cedar Rapids when their buses are finished running for the day. So NTS Horizons, as our operator, runs the service head to toe. It's a door-to-door service, so unlike the fixed routes in the area, somebody gets picked up at their door and taken to where they're going. And then the service is booked on an app, so it's really nice to have that access in the palm of your hand and not have to stop by, grab a bus schedule, purchase a pass, all that good stuff. Where we landed on setting up the service initially, this was December 11th of last year, so we just came around the corner of our first year in service. We run in the evenings, so service just is getting started here pretty soon, 5 p.m. to midnight, on the days of Sunday through Monday. That's a typo, I'm sorry. The days that we operate are Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so there's no Saturday service. My apologies on that. We have a booking window of a minimum 1 hour and a maximum of 7 days. The areas that we include are all the urban areas of Johnson County, and then we have some rural territory, Solon, Swisher, Shueyville, and all parts north of Interstate 80 can be served. The app that NTS uses to power this is Via, so it's a very well-known public transit software that kind of matches up the trips and puts people in the same vehicles and sets up the services that way. All right, here is a snapshot of the financials for this project. This is current through the end of October, so this is a little bit dated as we work through our costs. You can see here that we have several graded funding opportunities that helped us put this together. It's been quite a bit to manage all of that, but we were happy that these funds were available to make it happen. The biggest piece of the puzzle, and one of the biggest, was the state DOT special project funding that's available each year. Also, we had some county ARPA funds that help support this project, along with the National Center for Mobility Management, City of North Liberty, Kirkwood, and then some passenger revenue to help subsidize as well. So, in all, our service costs about $1,300 an evening. We operate 2 vehicles, one of which is accessible. So an accessible vehicle is available at all times. And then our monthly invoices have been running around $32,000. So here's the story of our ridership. So that first partial month, you can see we really took a while for people to understand what this service was and how it worked. And then you can see over time, it's just really grown. It's been a really nice experience to see how long it takes word of mouth to get started. So it's been really just painted a picture of how long it really took us to get our numbers up. So you can see that our top month was October at 616, just a little dip in November, and then Sandy just completed our December report, and we're back up to 600. So very pleased with how how much impact we've gained as time's gone by. All right. One of the metrics that we look at is the cost per ride. I think this is also a very telling graphic. As you can see, that first month when we only had about 40 trips, we lost, a good, chunk of money to running empty. But you can tell how much that word of mouth has really caught on, and we can see the cost per ride decline. So very pleased to see that. All in all, for FY25, our cost per ride was 122 per hour, and then we've dropped that to 69 for FY26, and that'd be through November. So I haven't put in that December full year yet, but hoping to see that it's $55 or lower per ride. Okay, this is probably the most interesting graphic that we'll have here. These are where everybody's been going. So this really paints a picture of how people travel from one city to another and how little we see the rural communities utilize service. It wasn't until I think probably 6 months in that we actually saw some rural riders making trip requests. In the green column, you'll see those are the starting points, and then in the red are the destinations. So definitely heavy in Iowa City, Coralville, North Liberty. But you can see that there's definitely a couple of University Heights and then some. All in all, for that first year, minus December, we have 4,224 trips. Okay, so on this slide, I think it's important to talk about when people are using the Trip Connect service, we're not usually seeing a round trip for them. We're not seeing that they ride 2 times there and back. This is truly a wraparound. So a lot of times they may be using another public transit service to get to somewhere, and then Trip Connect is their option to get home. So definitely a lot of one-way trips on our service. Very heavy on Iowa City to Iowa City. We saw that there was some of the Iowa City routes that are not running past 6 or 7 p.m. had high demand. You'll also see that there's a lot of, I know I mentioned people traveling from one city to another. I thought if you look at the North Liberty to North Liberty data, there's only 8 trips that happened North Liberty to North Liberty. So it really just kind of paints a picture of when you need to go somewhere and you're taking employment or education, that there's just, it validates the needs for the cities. All right, so here is our top 10 destinations. This data is going to be a little bit shorter than the other ranges I provided. This is from the start of the pilot through the end of September. And we have to give a shout out to Angela, City of North Liberty, who's put this together. One of the downsides of booking on this app is when you put an address in, you can put it in shorthand, you can spell out the word Iowa, you can spell out the word street, and it just gets really tedious to determine how much overlap there is between the destinations. So the top destination is Walmart. We learned through this process that in terms of VIA customers, Walmart is always the top destination across the United States. We're not very different in terms of that. Pretty evenly split between Iowa City and Coralville. We had a good amount of trips going to downtown Iowa City, several Hy-Vees in the area, McDonald's, some different UI locations, of course, the Coral Ridge Mall, Kirkwood and Coralville, Geico up here in North Liberty, Music for Life in North Liberty, and American Prosthetics, which is in east side of Iowa City. So what these destinations are telling us is there is definitely some groupings of passengers heading to some trends. Some of the people that you see on those last 3, 8 through 9, or actually 8 through 10 are riders that started last December and have been running with us for a full year. So it's really meant a lot to them. Also on this slide, I wanted to talk about when we've been setting this up, we've done some research on what jobs are available here in Johnson County. So the Iowa Workforce Development was helpful to put that together. When you look at open positions, top is always going to be healthcare for our area, but then right under that are industries like retail, food, accommodation. So it makes a lot of sense that our destinations are aligning with the jobs that are available. Okay, here's a quick snapshot on our performance overall. I mentioned how many rides we've had. On average, just under 500 per month, about 19 rides per evening. We had wonderful performance and success with app booking. So we felt very strongly that we needed to have a physical call center and a place to buy paper tickets, and it hasn't been. So 99.6% of our ridership all use the app. So we're really happy to see that that's been successful. Another shout out is passengers per hour. So this is a metric that a demand response service looks at when they have to do their annual reporting each year. And on average, in the United States, a service like this has 1.59 passengers per hour, and our service has had 1.68. So we've exceeded the national average this year in that quick year. People are not on board very long, so it's about a 6.5 mile trip for 15 minutes. And then about half of our trips are shared. So we are seeing that matching where there's more than one passenger on board. Okay, some more data here. When you book your trip, you're asked to select your travel category. You can see in the green is all the employment trips. So 76% are employment related. This is self-disclosed. And then we have some other riders that are make up about 15%, and then just a very small portion of uses for childcare. So we're glad we have that available. We think it could be better used, but we just haven't seen a lot of data on that so far. Okay, next slide in the yellow is how quickly, or how long rather, are people waiting to book? And this has been an interesting experience for us, because I think when we wanted to set up the service, we said people need 2 weeks to plan when they're going to make their trip, and that has not been the case. You can see that those first 3 bars on the top are all within the same day. So the vast majority of our ridership are booking the day that they need to go. So if you ever use the Lyft, you're not planning that in advance, and that's kind of what this service has been, is you need it when you're ready to travel. But then on the other hand, it still does mean a lot for people that do book 48 hours in advance. So there are some planners here. All right. These two sets look at rides per hour. So in our 5 p.m. to midnight window, it's going to be on the left-hand side. You can see that at 5 p.m. there's a big spike. It's been interesting to learn if we started earlier than 5 p.m. if we pick up more rides. So for the purpose of the pilot, we've stayed within the same time frame this entire time, which is 5 to midnight. But when looking at that for FY26, it drops down at 6 and 7 p.m. and then starts picking back up from 8 to midnight. On the right-hand side are the days of the week. So remember, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, mostly evenly spread. There's no days that are blatantly, we just don't need to operate. So it's been a good experience for us to learn travel times. All right. To gather the impact, one of the initiatives we did was a rider survey back in September. So this was an electronic survey that went out to over the app actually and encouraged riders to participate. What we learned is we have some younger ridership. So majority are under age 40. They're head of the household. Their income is $30,000 or less. And I'm going to pause there because going back to the wages associated with retail, food, hotel accommodations are not great. So that makes sense that this is serving low-income passengers. We also asked if people have a driver's license, and it was about half of our ridership that did. And then 85% said they don't have a vehicle. So this really has been a lifeline for them to get to where they need to go. There's a couple quotes on the side about, our ridership helping people in temporary moments where their car was in the shop for months and then they were going to be able to get that back. And then people saying that they've increased their attendance at work because they can get to school and childcare. All right. I think this is the last slide here. Second to last, actually. But very good feedback on how before Trip Connect, it was difficult for people to get to work. The most meaningful statistic here for me is how has it helped people increase their personal finances. That you guys all get to hear projects about housing and childcare and education and all the things. And I think that transportation is often that vital connection to helping somebody increase their personal finances. So I think that it's been a wonderful experience to see that and increasing attendance. So I think it really proves a point to the employers in the area that this has been a service for them as well. All right. Sadly, despite our best efforts and our growth that we've had in the year, this service will be ending on its scheduled end of this fiscal year. So that's going to be June 30th of this fiscal year, as I mentioned. We did have some opportunities to meet with the City of North Liberty, City of Coralville, transit directors, and then Iowa City transit directors to talk about the service as it's meant to wrap around their existing service load. Unfortunately, there just wasn't a path forward financially that was identified at the time, so it's our recommendation that the service end on the scheduled date. So I think I mentioned the grants before, those were all one-time use, so those aren't going to be coming around again that we're eligible for. So with that, I'll take any questions or questions.
Can you attribute those increases in ridership starting in about August to any employer, anything that may have started happening and that was consistent and such?
One thing that I can note that is unique to our community is school starting again. And by that, I mean the university. That would be one guess, but I think it really just took that long for people to understand what this service was and how it was. And if you think about somebody maybe that was unemployed, it may have taken them a little while to set up employment or potentially get a second job before they need this service.
There were a couple of employers, well, not a couple, there were a couple of them just here in North Liberty.
Yes.
Geico and Music Life. Are those riders employees, I assume? Or are they?
Yes. So we haven't had any direct conversations with somebody and asked where they're employed. Because except for number 9, I can actually say this is an Iowa City resident that called me and was riding seats to the Coralville border. And once he got off the Seats bus, he would Uber the rest of the way to their life. So that is one person in music. The Geico person may or may not be janitorial.
Okay. Last question for you is, what's the capacity left if this were to continue? How full are these two vehicles compared to what?
That's a really great question. I don't have any data pulled on that, but I did notice that when I was looking through December, our seats unavailable are rising. So the 2 vehicles for these 7 hours a night is a perfect fit for where we're at now, and I think there is room for growth, but we're definitely getting close to capping out.
So it's not seats left on those 2.
Wouldn't you say, Sandy?
Yeah, I would agree. I think the other thing, and I'm comparing it with our service right now in Cedar Rapids. because it's operating totally different than what we expected, and that's because people are waiting so long to book. I think if this were to run longer, people will find they have to book their rides much sooner to get an available ride, and if they do that, we could probably backfill more with the last minute riders. So it's kind of just
that trend of how long people are waiting to book has shifted a little bit as the service has gotten more busy. Because if they've had their ride unsatisfied, now they know they need to be a little bit more proactive and book earlier in the day. Just speaking from experience, when I log on to the operational center at like 9 a.m., I'll already see 10 people are ready to already have their trip request in for the day. And it is a first come, first served basis. So, and as I mentioned, that seat unavailable number has been growing as the service gets busier. So we're at good comfort level now.
Yes. Let me foreground this by saying I think that the service is amazing, and B, that it is currently it's being funded in the way that it should by public entities. However, with it technically, have you had conversations perhaps in addition to those that you first, mentioned about extending it with potentially some of these employers?
And part of the problem is when we first got started, it was too soon to tell.
Right.
It was just, this is really the story of it took a while to get started. We had success, and now it's just, and it's really difficult. And I thank Greater Iowa City. They've helped us connect to employers in the very beginning stages, and we were focused on businesses like Alpla and P&G, but what we're seeing here is corporate businesses that are doing retail, food, and health. That's just a different conversation. I think that there is room for that. We did have conversations with the DART system in Des Moines, and they absolutely have those business partnerships with employers. I think that would definitely need to be required for the future of this service. But the conversations that we had, we didn't have any immediate interest when we were starting. But now we have the data, right? And that's where it gets a little bit unfortunate is we had to look to the city of North Liberty to thankfully help sort all of that. And I mean, we're talking 4,000 rides, so it was just a lot to get aligned to be able to put these top 10 together.
I missed this one, the slide was up. What was the annual operating cost?
Annual.
Projected or whatever?
Sure.
So you think that 686 is probably where you're going to land?
Right. That is true. Yes.
that's more. That's a year and a half. That's the whole project.
The whole project.
That's for
Yeah,
18 months?
It's about
It is 18 months. Yes. Yeah, it's been, I think I mentioned, $30,000 a month average, and that's with the reduction of passengers.
Cindy, what does the ridership look like in this compared to what you've experienced up in Lynn County and Cedar Rapids?
Cedar Rapids is full.
What number that we've seen is that the 1.69, the 1.59 national average? What number would we have seen that you could give us some context? What do you mean by fuller?
I can't. I'm sorry. I don't have that.
I would say our unavailability rates in Cedar Rapids are different. It's people are booking weeks or that 7 days. They're booking 7 days in advance.
Okay.
A lot more different types of the community are using it. I know a lot of more refugees in Cedar Rapids use the service than here in Johnson County. So we're trying to get those other communities to know about the program, but it's just much more spread out in Cedar Rapids.
Are they using those services for work trips? Like
The majority.
So we have 75% down here in this pilot so far. Do you have a
We've
sense of what
opened
that
it
looks
up
like?
to everyone here. We don't restrict it. We're Cedar Rapids. We restrict
It is just restricted to work.
And how long has that program been going?
in Cedar Rapids. NTS started in 1994. in one neighborhood and expanded to a few more, and then we're in the whole metro. Again, how this service is different is that we don't go to the rural areas, and so it's a smaller service area, meaning for trips because we don't go to the rural areas.
And Kelly, you had mentioned it's how much per rider? Is it $35 or something a trip? 69 a trip.
What did you
Like per trip.
Cost per ride.
Yeah, per ride.
like the cost per ride?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's-
The lowest we got was $55 per ride.
55. And I mean, we know transportation is heavily subsidized. Do you have a sense of what other forms of transportation, like how much those cost? I mean, like to ride a bus or to, I mean, I'm sure it's probably significantly reduced, but the idea is that it keeps going down. Do you have any sense, or either of you, have you looked at any? I'm just curious because we have free buses in Iowa City. There's heavily subsidized transportation happening everywhere. And so what is unfortunate about this highly successful pilot is that now that we have the word of mouth going out, now that you have the ridership that you want, it's literally at the point at which it has to end. So I'm just curious, like, cost-wise, is this way out of what we would normally see for a transportation?
It's been a while since I've looked at the cost per ride on the fixed route, but it is difficult because the fixed route's going to run whether or not there's a passenger on the bus. And then I think a lot of that's changed with Fare Free, so I have not seen updated information, but I'm sure the MPO has good pulse on that.
I did research that a little bit as far as what microtransit should cost, and it should be anywhere between 20 and 40. And I think we can lower that cost per ride if we run up the ridership. I think there's ways of tweaking our program to bring that cost per ride up. Whether it's changing the service area, the times, the number of vehicles. There's ways of.
What are you experiencing in Lynn County for ridership costs per ride?
Oh, I mean.
Well, you had a couple minutes.
Normally I don't speak at these meetings. I'm so sorry. I don't have that.
I mean, are you in that 20 to 40, or do you think you're outside of that $40?
Yeah, I really can't answer that.
Some information to get back to you for sure.
Yeah, we could definitely
Yeah.
email that to you.
Absolutely.
Anybody have that number memorized? No?
Angela's about it. She's on it.
She's on it. See, this is how much the project's just outgrown social services
I
department.
think seats is like $40 or.
Okay.
I know when Horizon.
They're really efficient. So if you go back to that number of 1.68, I think they're over 2 passengers per hour. So they're a very efficient service.
And you guys are limited to employers. You said those rides just go.
Well, we do medical appointments, but the hours we run, there's very few medical appointments. And then we do training and classes as well, but again, there's very few. Our hours don't really begin until 7:30 at night, and then we'll go to about 6 in the morning, and then varies on the weekend. So our hours are totally different. We really are meant to kind of close that loop what Cedar Rapids Transit can. There's very little overlaps to the
Industry too.
Yeah. We're one transit system,
I think what's unique about our area is we have some cities that have limited transportation services, and then some that there is duplication. And I think that's definitely a learning point from this experience is there needs to be better coordination amongst all the services in the union, especially since most of our passengers are just one direction. That there needs to be better coordination.
I think some of the barriers for continuing are not just financial, but also who's going to do it, because it's outgrown social services, which
Absolutely.
is already a testament to the fact that you've carried it this far.
Yeah, we were happy to have the service. It's been a great experience about the potential in our area, but yes, it is the reality that we've outgrown the county social services.
Sorry, is it?
When Iowa City was looking at, Horizon's actually scoped an overnight service when we were looking at, do we have Sunday service, do we go Fare Free, or do we do like this type of service in Iowa City? And that was estimated to $60.
and so with our rate, I can't tell you our hourly rate for the contract is $93.25. So what that does include is the software, the vehicles, the staff, the management, the oversight, the full package. That's how we got to that number, and I think that's where we see some differences. And then, I think that when we have the discussions with Iowa City Transit, fare free is the priority. And then, right? They just didn't see a way to a path forward for having a service like this when they're in those dire situations with the service low. So it is the staff story. And I think the worst part is how much this has impacted our community. So if there's a way to rally on this in the future, it's definitely very meaningful. Yes.
Thinking about how the impact.
I'm gonna come closer so I can hear you.
So I'm thinking about the impact on the community. Is it possible to get some notion of what the economic effect for each rider is?
Maybe not specifically for our area, but I do know that the Iowa DOT just hired Iowa State University to look at economic impact. One of the cities that they looked at was City of Cedar Rapids. So basically, that's helping us say for every dollar that you put into public transit investment, this is how much it means for the city. So I can pull that up. I think it'd be good to know that, but they also looked at several rural communities in the state.
A way to, sadly, it's going to be sunset in April, right? How much money? I mean, that notion of like, okay, well, and then we can somehow work together and work with businesses, and okay, we've got the money now for another year or something like that.
Sure.
What is the impact of having to essentially shut down and then start back up again? I mean, economically, that seems like that would. That's a lot of effort, capacity, money, that instead of trying to find even if it's
Not that.
shortened and abbreviated, a smaller program, just so that it is not ceased, right?
Yeah.
Then have to start it all over again.
Yeah, I think that is an amazing question. I do not know how to answer that. I'll be honest, but I will say that it just makes sense to have a cost sharing model. And I think we've had some conversations about what Seeds does for their paratransit contracts, right? So when an Iowa City rider's on the bus, when a Coralville rider's on the bus, when a North Woodbury rider's on the bus. And theirs is very detailed by the minute. If you go back to that table by rides that I showed you, it makes it seem like an equal piece of the pie when you're doing city to city, whether somebody's starting or ending. But I absolutely think that doing a cost-sharing method between the cities makes the most sense.
And I'm new to the VP role. I've been at Horizons for about a year overseeing Meals on Wheels, but we restructured and I moved into this role to help do more partnership building and trying to find funding for specifically this program as well. So in the next, because it ends in June, correct? June, yeah. June 30th, yep. So that is my goal starting at the beginning of this year to try to find funding to continue, at least, if not all of this, continue something in this area. And yeah, through city's help, that is kind of where we're heading to try to see what we can do to partner with the cities, if not to completely fund, but figure out how we can, as these three cities in Tiffin and these areas, how we can work together for our community.
But I will say, NTS Horizons has been extremely flexible, and that is part of the reason why we looked outside of the county or the regular transit operations here to be able to operate something like this. And we're fortunate that your service area includes Johnson County. So they have Meals on Wheels programs here. So they already had office space available to park the vehicles and have the drivers be able to check in. So that was also a key piece for us. So thank you.
Happy to do it.
Are there any other questions for Kelly?
I have one. I'm looking back through, I correct me if I'm wrong or if I missed something, but I see data about the destinations. Is there data about like percentages or amounts of residents of which community utilize to connect more?
We don't know residency. And that's because when you're booking the ride, the information you have to provide is your name, your phone number, and an email. We don't actually know the residency. We do have data from our survey, and that I don't have memorized. I think we have that available online where you can view the full data from the survey, but that was just a small sample of community participants. The top 10 that I had listed up here, we left out any residential areas, mainly because we didn't want to identify people's personal homes. But Angela did do some digging and has found that some of the addresses have properties that are, let's say this, not leased, but owned by disability providers. So they might be
Assistance Unlimited on Spotify.
so that is not in the top 10 because we didn't have the time to sort through 4,000 addresses and determine what was in my systems. But that was another standout that we kind of had a late discovery on.
Sorry, real quick. Can I ask one quick question?
Yeah, go ahead, Jenny.
Do you, since it's by email, that was really helpful to know. Do you know how many emails? Just trying to figure out like how many actual individuals have signed up and participated.
We can find that data, but yeah, we just don't have it on hand.
Yeah, we can definitely get that information for you.
I just think that'd be really, really helpful. Like if this is 30 people taking lots of rides, or if it's how that is, that would be great.
I can look it up.
Yeah, we can access that information, but yeah, it probably won't be right now. So thank you. Anybody else?
Anyone else?
Here's my contact information if you want to keep the conversation going. Thank you.
And you go. I know that. Move on to item 6, which is Welcoming America update by Johnson County Community Engagement and Policy Coordinator Paula. I'm gonna stop.
Oh, I was like, you got it.
I was working on it, but then I was just gonna embarrass
I
myself.
was totally cheering for you.
Good evening, Paula Jaramillo Guajara. I'm the Community Engagement and Policy Coordinator from Johnson County Board of Supervisors Office. Yes, excited to talk about Welcoming Community certification on behalf of the core committee who is also with me, and they'll do some speaking as well. But really excited to share kind of the outcomes of a certification process that took about 16 months. And what we really found is it highlights the work that's already happening across the county, and it's really trying to build a foundation for working collaboratively for the betterment of public service to our community. So, with that, can't hold two things at once. We're going to review the certification, the process, the impact that this work has had so far, why this matters, and what comes next. But first, I will let the core committee up here in the beautiful gallery introduce themselves. And who wants to start? Abby, Ellen?
I'm Ellen Alexander. I'm the Assistant Director at the Coralville Public Library, and I'm sort of the representative from Coralville on this committee.
I'm Evan Doyle with Greater Iowa City.
This is Shaylin Harrington with Iowa City. I didn't realize there was a pecking order when I sat down up there.
I'm Abby Cobb, City of North Liberty's Outreach and Access Coordinator.
Yes, so we have great representation, which is always exciting in a project like this. But the certification overview, Welcoming America, who holds this kind of certification and framework, launched this Certified Welcoming Community program in 2017, really as a designation for local governments in particular, to demonstrate welcoming values through policies, programs, and practices. It's a 5-star system, so Johnson County recently acquired a 1-star designation, but it includes criteria that reflects the wide range of institutions and policies that influence day-to-day life in local communities. And I love this picture. I don't know why. That brings me so much joy. She reminds me of like the Degas ballerina. But anyway, we chose to take a community approach, which is why the core committee is so important to obtaining this certification. Again, like I said, only local government entities are eligible for this designation. And so what this really means is that we fully acknowledge that the work that is done by our community and truly our nonprofit partners as well, and not just the work that is done at the local government level, is what makes Johnson County a place that people feel like they can belong. And so the certification journey is actually a 6-step process that we'll quickly peek at here in the next few slides. But it really started not right now, but a while ago. For at least the last 5 years, organizations within Johnson County have actively participated in another one of Welcoming America's programs called Welcoming Week, which is usually a 10-day, I want to say, week. That each day really like has kind of a theme that is supposed to celebrate all aspects of kind of living, playing, working in Johnson County and how welcoming we can be. And so for the first time ever in 2024, Welcoming America created a foundational cohort. This was the opportunity to be a part of a cohort of municipalities across the country in pursuing either a 1, 2, or 3-star designation. They already had cohorts for their 4 and 5-star designations, so this was the first time that they offered it for the smaller star designations. And we applied and were selected to participate, which was really exciting. By February of 2025, we already had to have our self-assessment ready, and we had to provide evidence across the 16 categories that the 1-star designation looks at. So the designation stars do build upon themselves. So the 1-star is only, I say that in quotes, 16 categories, but as you build up into higher star designations, you're expected to provide a lot more evidence across a lot more categories. And so in May, we hosted a 1-day, 7-hour virtual audit. It was honestly very taxing to sit on a Zoom call for that long, but it brought together at least 4 relevant Johnson County departments and at least 13 community organizations to verify the evidence that we had submitted and gather additional context. And so the people that participated included the core committee, designees from the Iowa City Community School District, and other organizations and community leaders. And at the end of the day, I very distinctly remember looking around at the core committee and being pretty positive that we were going to receive the designation. So that was always. And so they made us sweat it out quite a long while. We were told that we would know, I think, 6 to 8 weeks if we had received the designation or not. We ended up finding out in the fall. So it was a long while before we received notice that that we had received the designation, which was exciting. You do also receive a final report that is written by the auditors. So these auditors come from communities that have already tried to get these designations or have received these designations, and then are trained by the Welcoming America team to basically hold these audits. And so we found out that we were the first community in the state of Iowa to ever receive this designation, which is really exciting. And we are one of the 4 counties across the United States that have received this designation. This is a more popular designation for city entities. And so having a county pursue it is something that they are still also kind of figuring out. So it's exciting to be at the top. We learned a lot from reviewing that report that came back and kind of figuring out what comes next, identifying priorities so we can continuously improve the work. And so what is a little bit of what we were asked for? So there are these framework areas. There's 7 of them. The county only had to meet 6 of them. And so it was 16 categories across these 6 framework areas. And what we found is that each of these framework areas really align with systems that already exist to provide public service. So it didn't feel like it was a big reach or that we were struggling to find things that matched. We actually struggled a lot with what evidence to turn in because our community had such an abundance of programming and just work that gets done every day that fits each of those categories. So that was kind of the toughest part for us. So although some criteria really specified certain recipient communities, we found that much of our evidence highlighted programs and services that ensured that all residents are able to participate in economic, civic, and social life in Johnson County. And we ended up providing evidence from both the rural and urban districts and ended up highlighting work being done even outside of the three kind of major cities, which was really exciting. And we're really grateful that we have the opportunity to reach kind of out of the Iowa City, Coralville, North Liberty area and provide evidence outside of those scopes. So why this matters? I have had the absolute pleasure of working with the core committee for the last 16 months to make this a reality. And so I think their insights and the impact that they feel like this has on their work is going to be way better than listening to me for a little while longer. So I don't know who wants to start up there and kind of share their piece on why this matters. Abby, Ellen?
Sure.
Abby?
Sure. Okay, so certification wasn't simply spotlighting what our communities have already done just to receive recognition. While this is, of course, part of becoming certified, more notably, there was an in-depth evaluation of where we can go from here and how we can improve our welcoming standards. So the audit interview experience came shortly after I began my employment here with the city of North Liberty. In preparation for the interview, I got to assess what the city has been doing and what departments are doing to actively be welcoming places for our residents. The review process gave me a great appreciation for what Johnson County is doing, and more importantly, working with my colleagues up here and the Welcoming America experts, it also gave me inspiration for what's next. So I'm looking forward to improving our city's language access program, strengthening the partnerships that we have with our local nonprofits, and working toward a meaningful Welcome Week 2026.
In my role with the city of Iowa City, I do neighborhood outreach. And during Welcoming Week, two of the neighborhood associations were very gung-ho and excited to participate in Welcoming Week. And so hosting community events where their neighbors were coming to a park, or actually this event right here, the Eastside Neighborhood Association, creating welcoming signs that had artwork on the back and just words of celebration and whatnot. It truly showed to me that folks from all over the community are truly welcoming, right? Like they wish to celebrate and include and meet one another, and so being a part of this team and knowing that day in, day out, I'm meeting with community leaders who want to know their neighbors, who want to be a part of something bigger than just their household, just the folks that they know. It really solidified that the work, mission, and the drive for community members correlates with what nonprofits are doing, what our local government agencies are doing. And so I think it just speaks to the fact that everything's in line with the desire to be a welcoming community, and that Johnson County is doing it quite well.
Yeah. So for Greater Iowa City, a year ago, we were still a relatively new organization, trying to find out which lanes to go in or what projects to jump into. And Welcoming Week was a good Kickstarter to this, and also Johnson County's Inclusive Economic Development Plan. That plan kind of guides Greater Iowa City's inclusive economic development work. So this was a perfect opportunity to jump in and support where we can. Greater Iowa City, typically in the past, or before we merged, typically in the past, we dealt with more businesses, and this is kind of a different nonprofit social service lane. So jumping in and supporting will be amazing the next coming years. And I will also say, on a personal level, the full day audit was absolutely incredible. 13 organizations, not including the steering committees, organizations represented all in one day was amazing. The nonprofit social service world is always just go, go, go. And they've kind of just had like 30 minutes to an hour to just brag about themselves and the work they do. And they do absolutely incredible work and a lot of work. So to hear them and to see everyone smile when they're talking about their own work was amazing.
I think one of the big things that came out was for me, learning about all of this work that's going on, learning so much about organizations that I thought I knew some about. Even I learned little more details of what they're doing. The connecting of these organizations with each other, the people that are doing this work, and also the audit report that we got from Welcoming America came with a lot of really interesting, helpful little tips about ways to improve what we are doing and where we go from here with this work.
Yeah, I'll echo everything the committee said. I worked in the nonprofit sphere here before I ended up at Johnson County, and I learned a lot about a lot of organizations that I thought I knew quite well. So the next steps, in late February, we'll be celebrating all of the organizations and the groups that helped make this year's certification a reality. We also hope to host an even bigger community-wide celebration in September that aligns with this year's Welcoming Week, which always happens in September. The certification lasts 4 years. So we hope to make way on our strategic roadmap at that point in time, and either recertify at the 1-star level or see if it makes sense to pursue a higher star designation. And again, this collaborative approach sets the foundation for how we would like to proactively work together to understand and respond to different types of community need. And so the plan is that through these quarterly meetings, we hope to build that up, not only with the organizations that obviously supported us through the certification process, but kind of having that pulse on the true community need as it changes and shifts and being able to prioritize what might need a quicker response. So the long-term goal is to ensure that lasting impact, and so that comes from being focused on ongoing evaluation. We think the recertification process is a great spot for that. Continuing to strengthen partnerships. Again, we had a hard time picking what evidence we wanted to submit, and so that we know that we can continue to support and leverage those relationships into building up some bigger structures to make a bigger impact and enhancing those continuous improvement strategies. I think the great part of having taken this framework is that it very clearly creates a roadmap of how we can move forward if we choose to do so. But it also aims to create this infrastructure for how community and community orgs can work collaboratively to leverage the work that's already being done to achieve broader community goals and making sure that all of that aligns. So your support, I love always ending with a big ask, but continuing to champion these welcoming values, leading conversations within your organizations to align policy and resources to this framework. I think the best part is that we have representatives from the 3 major cities and some other organizations that participate. I'm always accessible too if you'd like to connect with me, but there are opportunities to emphasize local priorities, and these efforts support residents, schools, businesses, civic institutions, workforce development, and community trust, much to Kelly's wonderful point. This also supports accountability and transparency of this work. We go into public service because we believe that that's where we are meant to serve. And so part of that comes with accountability and transparency. And so being able to have you be a part of that journey, we think is really important as well. So I do want to thank all of the cities and the organizations that helped make this a reality. It was kind of a pipe dream when we first found out of the designation because it felt really big, and all of the stars kind of aligned for us to pursue it. And so I'm really grateful for the work that everyone has done to make this a reality, but also wanted to share it with you as a point of pride for all of you. Your communities are a part of Johnson County. The work that you do day in and day out is very much shown through that audit process. And so we're grateful for that work as well. Any questions? Yes.
Where can we find the report for the audit?
Yeah, so the formal report has not been made public yet. You all are our first stop in actually making this public that Johnson County has received this designation, and we will build up kind of external communications from there, but we wanted to make sure that our elected officials in the area were able to get that first glimpse, first peek.
I'm sorry, what I meant to say was thank you. Incredible job. Yeah, so I really just wanted to see the audit. I mean, it would be incredible to read, what I always say, the embarrassment of riches that we have when it comes to our nonprofits and the welcoming atmosphere that we have. But I would really love to just read what the audit had, especially knowing so many of you who have been in the county for so long. It's amazing to see that you all were also inspired and also surprised by what you didn't know. So I'm looking forward to reading that.
Yeah, and we're really grateful. We highlighted our social services department, our public health department. I want to say our auditor's office for their community ID program. So a lot of internal, external stuff. And yeah, we're absolutely really proud of it and excited to see how we can grow it. Lovely.
Thank you very much. That was graceful.
As I usually am.
The next item on the agenda is just proposed dates and hosts for these future meetings. Yes, we don't probably have a lot to say about it, but if anybody has any conflicts, please share them with us now or in the future. And I will softly entertain a motion to adjourn. Actually, are there any other comments before we get out of here?
Thanks for hosting.
My pleasure. Thank you all for coming out. Is there a motion to adjourn? You want to fire that one up?
Make that motion.
All right. Sounds good, Lisa. Hey, how about all in favor say aye? Aye. Thank you all very much.